namhlanje unguThixo wethu, abantwana bethu kunye nabazukulwana bethu. Sisondela kuwe nzulundini yemfihlakalo. Sibulela ithuba mnini mandla wonke osiphe lona ngentsasa yanamhlanje inkosi elungileyo. Xa singena enkonzweni ezike kunene, xa singena enkonzweni ebuhlungu umoya weyingcwele, xa kuhamba omnye wethu inkosi elungileyo, xa kuhamba elinye ilungu laseAfrika Thixo namandla amakhulu, sisondela kuwe ke Thixo wethu, siphethe ezimhlophe ipotantshefu Mesiya weyingcwele. Siphakamise izandla Thixo namandla amakhulu, sithi hamba nyana kaMokoena, hamba mAfrika omhle, uze uthina lapho uyakhona. Uyawufika ngenene amalunga lenkonzo ekulindileyo, ejonge ezantsi Thixo namandla, ebuza kokuba ngabe ngubani nalowa ogcwele intuli zehlabathi. Kuthiwe ewe, ngu-Aubrey udundubala Mokoena, yimini yakhe le Thixo namandla amakhulu. Sisondela kuwe nzulundini yemfihlakalo. Ngena nathi ke Thixo namandla, xa sizawungena kule nkonzo Mesiya weyingcwele, sibulela nelithuba Thixo wethu osiphe lona olokuba singene ngaphakathi kwenkonzo. Sithi sawungena Nkosi elungileyo, sihlabele ingoma Thixo namandla, siyakudumisa Thixo, siyakuvuma okokuba unguYehova. Nangale mini Nkosi elungileyo, okanye ngale ntsasa Thixo namandla, usenguThixo. Noba ngabe kunje, kodwa wena usenguThixo ophilayo. UnguThixo kusapho lonke lakwaMokoena. UnguThixo mnini mandla wonke nakule nkonzo yeAfrika Nkosi yami, ingakumbi nangakumbi le tempile ese-Ebenezer Thixo namandla. Ngena nathi ke Mesiya weyingcwele, ize ihambe le nkonzo ngendlela ifanelekileyo, ihambe ngendlela elawulwa nguwe Thixo namandla. Thina sikwazi ukubuya umva, simamele wena ngentsasa yanamhlanje okokuba uzowuthini kuthi xa uthetha nathi mnini mandla wonke. Sula inyembezi Thixo namandla, amanxeba Nkosi yami avulekile, inhliziyo zikrazukile Thixo namandla amakhulu. Siyazi futhi sinethemba Thixo wethu okokuba wena ngalomzuzu uphethe yakho inaliti yezulu eyawuthunga wonke lamanxeba mnini mandla wonke. Thixo, nansi inkonzo yaseAfrika, ngicelela nalowo Mesiya weyingcwele omphathise umyalezo okokuba zosixelela kokuba wena ufuna ukuba senze ntoni nangentsasa namhlanje. Thamsancelisa ke Nkosi yami imithandazo yethu, ufikelele nalapho ungafikelela ngakhona. Ngayilo sifela uNjesu Kristu inkosi yethu, owanyathela ukufa wasishela kuphila kungunaphakade. Amen.
Amen. Let me take this opportunity to dibulise ikhaya lakaMokoena. Uthi utata Ramkhadile Dikoya diasesa. Dibulise the leadership of our church, the cardinal and the bishops were here. Dibulise wonke umuntu okhona egameni lamandla kaJesu Kristu yethu. Amen. Silapha abantu kwethu as a church to celebrate iqhawe. As a church, we've come to celebrate the hero of a struggle in the spiritual sense. Bakhona who will tell us about this social, economical, and political struggle. But as a church, we're on the side of the spiritual. We have come to celebrate that. As we resume this program, allow me to read amazwi kaPaul when he's about to departure in this world. To Paul, I have fight the good faith. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. That is Aubrey Mokoena. The 3 F's. 3 F's. He has finished the race. In his finishing, he only had one thing. I have kept the faith. asizanga nanto emhlabeni bantakwethu. Kuthe kuhleng bayesiphume nanto. Aubrey was born and he found the faith and he kept the faith. Okusele kuphela is the crown of glory. Dicela siphakame ke sibuza umfundisi unkosi senze Psalm 90 as we all stand except the family. We're reading Psalm 90 as we all stand except the family.
Oh Lord, you have always been our home. Before you create the hills, or you brought the world into being, you were eternal God and will be God forever. You tell us to return to what we were. You change us back to dust. 1,000 years to you are like one day. They are like yesterday, already gone, like a short hour in the night. You carry us away like a flood. We last no longer than a dream. We are like weeds that sprout in the morning, that grow and burst in bloom, then dry up and die in the evening. We are destroyed by your anger. We are terrified by your fury. You place our sin before you, our secret sin, when you can see them. Our life is cut short by your anger. It floods away like a whisper. 17 years is all we have. 8 years if we are strong, yet all bring us in trouble and sorrow. Life is soon over, and we are gone. Who has felt the full power of your anger? Who knows what fear your fury can bring? Teach us short our life is, so that we may become wise. How much longer will your anger last? Have pity, O Lord, on your servant. Fill us each morning with your constant love, so that we may sing and be glad all our life. Give us now as much happiness as the sadness you gave us during all our years of misery. Let us, your servants, see your mighty deeds. Let our descendants see your glorious mighty. Lord, our God, may your blessing be with us. Give us success in all we do. Amen. Amen.
Amen. The program has changed. We start with the church part for a moment. We'll split it halfway. We'll then go back to the first item.
I am advised that, and it doesn't look like we'll achieve this because there is the church, then there's a family. But we are slightly above the COVID regulations, lockdown regulations, regulations rather, that we should be 50, at least 50 in this church. But I think we're about 5, 6 above the number. But we'll request that anyone who's outside should not be allowed to come in, unless if it's a family member, so that we stick to what we have agreed upon as a nation. And please keep your social distance as much as you can, and put your mask on. Only speakers, if they so choose, will take their masks off. But even them, they are advised actually they should, if possible, speak with your mask on. But we will continue trying to sanitize the mic so that we don't put ourselves in a situation where Rekafelels are really infected. You know, June 16, my wife and I was watching the late mayor of Johannesburg, Comrade Jeff Makubu, may his soul rest in peace, doing his state duty. And we're watching it on television. And my wife said that, you know, Jeff is risking his health here. And I said, why? He said, you know, just watch. He is trying his best to avoid infection, but there's slight mistakes that he's doing. And I watched, and we agreed that he's making a mistake. And when Jeff was reported to be COVID positive, my wife said, what did I say to you? The risk on June 16th may have contributed to that. So we have just lost too many people, many of our people, leaders, and our people broadly, 56,000 of them. And there's over 220,000 that are currently positive. And every morning when you open up our phones, we hear that we've lost our closest friends, relatives, uncles, mothers, fathers, grandmothers. Our leaders are going every day. So let's really be as careful as we can. Ke tlo kopa everybody to stand up. Let's sing the national anthem. South Africa, let it blow van hemel, let it diep van voor ons weggebeld van die Godse antwoord. Sound the call to come together, and united we shall stand. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa, our land. Thank you very much. You can get seated. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you, the Mokoena and Mohorosi family, Osi Malishani, Mohorosi, our daughter from Kagiso, who got married to the Mokoenas, Sechaba, Kicho Mandela, and Naledi, you know, when always in the families of comrades, because there's Chaba this side, there's Mandela this side, there's Mandela this side. Mandela and Naledi. The people of Soweto, the people of Kagiso, the people of Gauteng, the Republic of South Africa, we have gathered here to pay tribute to Cde Aubrey Mokoena. And present in our midst, we have the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Cde Duarte, and I want to welcome you, my sister, my leader, and our mother. Let me also welcome the Chief Whip of the African National Congress in the city of Johannesburg, Ntate Solimogase. He's also seated today, part of the leadership. You are welcome, my brother. Let me also welcome member of the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC and former mayor of the city of Johannesburg and an MEC of Economic Development and Tourism in Gauteng, Ntate Mpho Pakstau. You are welcome, my brother. Welcome, Advocate Makosini Msibi. I don't know if Advocate has arrived. If you are around, Advocate, you are one of the speakers. Is Advocate Msibi around? Thank you very much. You are welcome, Advocate Msibi. Dr. Buyinkabinde. I hope is Dr. Buyinkabinde around? Where's Dr. Buyinkabinde? Oh, you are welcome, Doc. Thank you very much for making yourself present. Comrade Jabu Ngwenya, a long time comrade and friend of Comrade Aubrey Mokoena. You are welcome, Comrade Jabu. Comrade Keith Khoza is not yet here, but he was very key in putting this funeral service together, particularly from communication and messaging. If Comrade Keith Khoza is here, he's welcomed. Then Muntsisi should be here, and I'm not sure if he has arrived. Is Dan Muntsisi here? He's not. June 16, supposed to be representing June 16 in the amended program. Welcome. If he's still not here, please let me know when he arrives. Phuthego ya Modimo ka kakaretso e leng fa baruti ba rona, Reverend Nkosi and Reverend Njegeliso. Thank you very much, our spiritual fathers, for hosting us in this holy house of the Almighty. We are very much thankful that our brother, son, has grown up from this church and is coming to pray here with us, spiritually for the last time in the church that he grew up in, and he started. I'm told that he contributed in the construction, actually he built this church. Of course, he didn't build it alone. He would have built it with the body of the Methodist community in South Africa. We have gathered here this morning to lay to rest the mortal remains of our brother, our father, our uncle, our comrade, our leader, our patriot, great patriot, one of the greatest patriots that this country has produced, Cde Aubrey Mokoena. My relationship with him was almost 10 years older than me. Started almost 42, 44 years ago, long time ago, when they were released from prison and were looking for leaders in South Africa, to give us courage as young activists of the time. And thanks God, he married our sister and our teacher, Osmalishan Mohorosi in Kagiso, and as a consequence, we were able to relate with Osmalishan. These are the people that were harassed very bad by the security branch during the time. Osmalishan did not become political when she engaged Aubrey. She was a political activist in her own right, as a teacher in Kagiso, and of course with Aubrey coming into the family, it became even worse. The fire was lit and it never stopped. That's how we relate. I'm sure some people will say, how does Uhuru Muilwa come to Soweto and master the ceremony of Aubrey? It is because he's my brother-in-law, Kiswar. He's married to my sister in Kagiso. I was Malishani in that sense. But he's my leader. Because when we looked for leaders in the early 80s, when they were released from prison, they were the first to visit us and say, you are on a correct path. And as a result, we were able, with courage and leadership that they provided to us, to move forward, knowing that we were doing the correct things. He has lived his time. He has played this role as a patriot in this country, as a father, as an uncle, as a neighbor, and I'm sure all of us are agreed that he did not just serve humanity, he also served the Almighty God. So in that sense, as people of faith, we can say we are here to release his spirit so that he can join other leaders of spirit, leaders of our struggle in heavens, because we think that everybody that has served the Almighty and served humanity to achieve justice, these are the people that are welcomed in heaven. So we believe. And our faith does say, when you have served humanity, you have actually done what God wants all of us to do. This is where I end with my remarks. Now, masters of programs don't speak in between speakers. I was just introducing so that I let everybody comfortable and you know where we are. The COVID-19 has dehumanized us. If it was normal, we'll be at Orlando Stadium to lay to rest and pay tribute to this great son of Africa, of our country. But unfortunately, we are where we are, and in the interest of saving the health of our nation, we need to be doing things the way we are doing now. Let me then invite the children of Comrade Aubrey Mokoena, as represented by Madiba Mandela Mokoena, to come and render a message on behalf of the family. Mandela.
Dumelang bagaetsho. In the interest of time as well, I will not be too long. Everyone that is under this roof definitely knows Cde Aubrey Mokoena. So there is basically nothing that I can tell you that you do not know that much about him. He was selfless, he was loving. He was selfless to a point that after I matriculated and after my sister matriculated, his mantra and ethos was that he would not let us apply for bursaries because bursaries were meant for the needy children. He said he would rather sacrifice and make a plan for us to go to school so that he accommodates people that needed education. You name it, from low-cost housing to charity to adoption of children on his farm. He has been selfless throughout his entire life, and that is something that we want to carry through our existence. The second thing is education. Both my parents have an absolute affinity for education and creating organic relationships. Kuthiwa umuntu umuntu ngabantu. Ubaba beko umuntu onjalo. Mawuhlangana naye othi hey ngihlangane nobongani. Uzothi ubongani muphi. You'll have to explain yourself. Who is Bongani? And it will be, no, Ubongani, Masuku, Gabani Bani, and so on, so that there is a direct trace. I think that is from his political side. But also, from the spiritual side. That creates a holistic individual. And if you have that energy, you are able to resonate it to those around you. He had such an infectious laugh. Ubaba, makahleka nje. Yawuzwa nje abafundisi bayahleka nje nabo. I loved the fact ukuthi at the opening of this ceremony, it is a celebration. I am at a point where, or we are at a point as Onaledi Nami, that we have seen that it's not as if Ubaba has left us or we have lost. We have actually seen the benefit, and we can see it in people's eyes, in their messages, the contribution that he has created to the community. That is what we thrive to also achieve in future. Those are big shoes to fill. However, we will change the world in whichever small way that we can. And I would like to thank each and every single one of you for messages of condolence and support that you have provided us through the past couple of days. Thank you very much.
Our DSG, who is the leader of the National Liberation Movement, our DSG, Comrade Cde Duarte, member of the African National Congress in the Gauteng Province, Provincial Executive Member, Comrade Parkstar, who is the Treasurer of Gauteng, Chief Whip of Council, all generations that produced Cde Aubrey, that and generations after him, the church congregation at large. I am a sibling to Mandela, Naledi. Mema Mokoena added me to the Mokoena family as a child who was adopted in the revolution. Comrade Program Director. Let me read the message from Mem Mokoena. I never thought I would be standing here bidding you farewell. I find it difficult to say goodbye. It's difficult. It would be unfair for me to reiterate what all the speakers at the memorial service said about you. They know you very well. Who will refute what our comrades from RMC said about you? They know you too well. I shall not speak about you without being anecdotal. All the funny things you used to do and say at home. How you would refer to comrade as a father, as doctor. How you would correct our English, give us synonyms, antonyms, and how to use those words correctly in a sentence. I'll never forget our fundamental difference about dress code. You loved white socks as well as your favorite to buy red shoes. When I objected you would say, Mother, there are two things that make you to object to my dress sense. One, you are jealous. Two, you come from a semi-rural area named Kagiso. So you won't understand fashion. Naledi would come to my rescue by wearing the socks to school as part of the uniform. You traveled so much during your days of activism that I would sometimes remind you that you are married. You'd also remind me that I was an activist, that I attended meetings as well. You had answers for everything. As you traveled around the country, you were always accompanied by young RMC comrades, Botsidiso, Waya, Tsietsi, Edi, Jabu, and others. I remember once I asked you whether these young comrades or young guys had girlfriends. You told me girlfriends were activists as well. You'd have among the older generation Date Matthews and Margaret Hangapai, whom you always referred to as Mam G. They were relentless. RMC was a typical example of generational mix. This is where we were nurtured, guided, and draw wisdom. There was no ageism. You were a revolutionary. You lived the struggle. You loved the ANC. You loved the ANC till the end. 2 weeks before your passing, I had a conversation with you. We discussed the ANC, the problems, our happiness. You argued that the problems will always be there. The ANC will cleanse itself, you stated. You used the analogy of the River Nile. As it meanders, it cleanses itself. When I saw you lying peacefully on the hospital bed, I could not stop the tears. I took comfort in the fact that you had achieved your goal. You saw Mandela freed. You saw the freedom you'd been fighting for achieved. You had to rest, Tundubala. I learned a lot from you. I'll forever cherish our life together. You had fought the good fight. You finished the race. You kept the faith. The crown of glory awaits you as your family will take solace from serenity prayer. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Go well. You'll be traveling your last journey singing with that beautiful tenor of yours, your favorite hymn, Mili Pilulimo. Rest in peace, my dear husband.
Let me call Mr. Makosini Msibi. Mr. Makosini Msibi to come and share with us what he knows about Comrade Aubrey Mokoena. As he ascended the stage, Aubrey was a member of the African National Congress and a leader. Let's say it. Viva ANC, viva! Viva ANC, viva! Viva South African Communist Party, viva! Viva COSATU, viva! Viva Sanko, viva! When it was not fashionable for us to hear this message, Aubrey's message has always been, Nelson Mandela will walk the streets of Soweto. And that was his battle cry. And indeed, when Nelson Mandela walked the streets, we said, that's Aubrey's message being translated into reality. You are welcome, my brother. You are taller than me. I'm not sure if I should take a chance to, because I don't want you to have the burden of raising a mic.
Okay,
are you comfortable?
I am.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
To the program directors, the clergy, bishops, the congregation, Comrade Cde Aubrey, the DSG, Comrade Parks, the Chief Whip, all protocol observed. Allow me, Program Director, to surmise my tribute to my uncle. Aubrey, it's my uncle. I'm the only surviving nephew. And my mother was the only girl in the family of Mokoena, commonly known as 7466 Orlando West. Uncle, you have taken a bow on this world stage and been promoted to glory to reveal the presence of our Lord and Maker. I can picture it all. You seated on the stool surrounded by our grandfather Mpandlana, Gogrewi, Akamaviki, Nkgono Makgomo, Vicky, Malume Leslie, and Malume Tlhabane, all of whom have gone before you, save for your last brother, Thabo. As you regale to them with tales of your illustrious life, fraught with trials and tribulations, from which you emerged victorious with renewed determination. In the words of my favorite hymns, it is well with my soul, now free from pain and any form of affliction. May your selflessness and courage continue to be the beacon of hope for the downtrodden in our struggle to be freed from all forms of discrimination and social exclusion. Even though we have ceased to be with us physically, your spirit lives on in our hearts, and I know eventually we will be together one sweet day. Uncle, you are the voice and the strength of the toiling masses of our country. Like a wall, you did not shake when those who brought hate and destruction to you. Instead, with courage, you stood up for human rights, freedom from the oppressed, justice, and the right of your people to live with dignity and chose their own destiny. To us, you are an icon of bringer of peace, a uniter, a man of perseverance, full of leadership, forgiveness, love, humility, wisdom, and loyalty. Gone but never will be forgotten, for you surely left an indelible mark in our hearts. As we celebrate the Mandela Day this month, we will never stop thinking of you and be reminded of that memory, that day, the 10th of February 1985, when Zenzi Mandela read a letter written by one of our icons, the late Nelson Mandela, during his incarceration. When he read to the multitudes at Jabulani Stadium, your freedom and mine cannot be separated. And what was outstanding was the song that you led, Senzenina. That voice still reverberates in our minds, and it will keep us going. And indeed, Senzenina became your trademark. Just as I close, I need to indicate that I wondered throughout my early childhood, even now, how my aunt fell in love with my uncle, because he had a different taste of color, and his dress code was something else that one will never even appreciate. But that's what my uncle was. Cde Aubrey Mokoena, Mohlakwana, wa pholo ya disema, ya sa jing sengwathelana sa maobane, ya jang ha meriti e theha, ya di otlwana. Go farewell. Good night. See you in the morning.
I greet you all who are gathered here today to bid farewell to our uncle, Aubrey Mokoena. I say all protocol observed. I am representing my aunt, Hilda Masondo, who is a cousin to Uncle Aubrey. She unfortunately couldn't be with us today because of unseen circumstances. As a background, I'll tell you how we are related. I'll give you a background of that. Uncle Aubrey's mother and our grandmother were sisters from the Hlajwayo family, Omhaise. Our grandmother got married to the Ngabindes. She was the firstborn. And Ukokuroi, we used to call her Kokuroi, Uncle Aubrey's mother, married Umkhuluma Tsiran, Mokoena. Uncle Aubrey's other name, as you've heard, is Tundubala, which means to emerge. Lelo gama lelo walinikezwa umkhulu wakhe, umkhulu Matewu uHlatshwayo. Umbaba kamama wakhe. My siblings and I always addressed him as Ubaba omncane uDudu, which is short for Tundubala. I still can't believe that Ubaba omncane akasekho. All I can say is that I'm in deep pain and emotionally numb. Being trapped in this yoke of pain, I want to testify and endorse that this was indeed a great man whose actions were louder than his words. Ubaba omncane touched lives of souls across the length and breadth of South Africa and beyond. Amongst many of the vivid memories that brought a smile on my face together with my siblings, Onkosana, Nkofe, and Land, is that Ubaba omncane and Sismali, I think she's forgotten about it. They once took us out for the first time in our lives to watch the cast Ipintombi at Brook Theatre in Johannesburg. It was a great experience that brought excitement of a lifetime for us. Also, Ubaba omncane no Sismali not only showered us with gifts, but importantly, we as Abashana were lucky to receive endless motivational sessions on the importance of education, a call that we responded to in a positive way. They also shared critical life skills and ounces of wisdom with us. This made it possible for us to be able to navigate through challenges of life. Ubaba omncane ngithi, the flame of your life was not only directed to your family, but also to society at large. In isiZulu, we say, ukhamba lufuza imbiza, because you took after your great-grandfather, our great-grandfather, your grandfather, uMatewu Hlatshwayo, who used to house strangers in his home. Sizwile izolo ku-memorial service ukuthi Ubaba omncane uDudu ubethatha abantwana ama-street kids ahlala nabo abanakekela. I can't think of an appropriate adjective to describe you, but the acronym SMART would be befitting. S for selfless, everybody has said that. He was splendid and he was stylish in his own way. M for meticulous. A for ambitious and admirable. R, he was religious. He was reliable. He was radiant. And he was refined. T for a great thinker. Beautiful brains, and much more. And in hindsight, I think I have been fortunate to have received a call from Ubaba omncane a few weeks ago as I was driving home from work. We had an amazing conversation for about a good 30 minutes. He informed me that he was writing a book about the family history. He had contacted people from Durban, people from Castle, a Free State, La Sugakon, people from Eval, people from Tembisa, abanye bathi kimi, Sisibuyi, lo muntu lo usithintile wazi ogogo bethu nokhokho bethu besikhuluma naye. Besifisa ukumbona, but we never had time. and he told us about our family history. Ngiyambuza ngithi, uyibhala kanjani le family history ungaboni? Uyasho ukuthi there are gadgets now. You can just speak and when the gadgets write whatever you're talking about. So he was using that. The message from Abashan City, we are what we are, Babumngani, because of your positive intervention in the early phases of our lives. Thank you for the constant unwavering support you have provided to our family. We are eternally grateful for that. And then I'll quote from Josh Groban's piece of music. We want individually to say, Kubabumngani as Abashan, you raised me up so I can stand on mountains. You raised me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I'm on your shoulders. You raised me up to more than I can be. And lastly, to you, Sismali, Mandela, and Naledi, we are and will be forever with you in your pain. Be strong and trust in God. I'll leave you with Psalm 46, the first verse, which says, God is my refuge. He's my strength, and he's an ever-present help. You can call him at any time. And then it ends by saying, especially in times of trouble. And to Babumngani Dudu, I say good night, Babumngani. We'll join you in a moment. I thank you.
I would like to thank the MEC for calling me to come to stand in front of you and talk briefly about Comrade Aubrey. May I also point out quickly that I was not earmarked to become one of the speakers, but it happened that the person who was supposed to speak on behalf of the Release Mandela campaign seems to be held up somewhere. And when they threw their eyes around, they saw me and thought that I'll be the appropriate speaker. Maybe I am by virtue of the fact that I served with Bra Ops, as we called him, from the formation of the RMC itself until the main or the primary objective was achieved, namely the release of political prisoners, the detainees, as well as the return of the exiles. All those objectives formed the key strategic issues that guided the Release Mandela campaign. Let me point out quickly also that the liberation movement took it upon itself to fight for what was broadly defined as liberation, but without specifics. And then RMC put the release of the leadership and the return of the exile on the program of the entire democratic movement. That is why it became such a popular campaign rather than an organization. Before that, I have met with Comrade Aubrey shortly after the banning of the 18 organizations as well as the newspapers. They used to have some functions at the Methodist Youth Center there in Jabavu, which was under what was called Black Community Programs. We didn't know each other because there was a huge generation gap between us, the June 16 detachment, if you like, and them as comrades who built up the South African Student Organization, SASO. I've seen in this thing, it is written as South African Student Association. I think that must be corrected because it changes the history. And whoever wrote it there, please, accept that it has to be corrected. So we were looking for inspiration as young people.
after 1976. We only knew that Isono said to Bumnyama, not further than that, because we sang that song quite a lot in the aftermath of the 1976 riots. And now, we regularly went to the youth center to engage with these people with a view to get more information about what is this liberation struggle. For instance, I never knew personally that there was an organization called Umkhonto weSizwe. We knew later, perhaps at the end of 1978, this was the period when the ANC infiltrated some of his cadres into the country. And later on, even before that, there was this case about Tokyo, Sokhwale, and various other stalwarts of the liberation movement. So there was also the black consciousness on the other hand. And those comrades at the black community programs used to explain those differences with us. And the advantage was also that we celebrated the fact that we didn't know the differences between the ANC and the PAC. I remember around 1978, we went down to the Eastern Cape, Graf Reinet, to bury Ndate Mangaliso, Robert Sobukwe. We never knew that he belonged to an organization that was different from the ANC. And when other stalwarts of the ANC as well died around Soweto, we were always there trying to find out more about what was the liberation struggle. Now, fast forward a little. From there, it was in early 83 when we formed the Soweto Youth Congress, and which was also formed at the same time as the UDF. I know that Comrade Aubrey was already within the structures that were working towards formation of the UDF. And then thereafter, he came and talked to us as young people. After he heard that we were also forming youth congress all over South Africa. And he said, no, we have to join forces and work together. And that's how some of us joined the Release Mandela campaign, and we started moving all over the country. We went to the Eastern Cape, we went to Limpopo, we went to KwaZulu-Natal, planting the structures of the Release Mandela campaign. We met people like Comrade Mewaram Kobin, we met Achi Kumete, and we threw them into the RMC. In the Eastern Cape, there were several others as well. Comrade Sito, there was also Comrade Henry Fazi, who were already serving within the structure, and they joined the RMC, and it became quite an exciting organization to work in. Aubrey was such a tireless member of this organization. He came with ideas, he came with plans. He was convincing. He could even overrun you. And there was also, he couldn't even leave his own sense of humor behind. I remember one time he warned us that we have heard that Nelson Mandela is about to be released. We have to go and organize karatekas to come and protect him against the masses. And we just wondered what has gone on into Aubrey. And he believed in what he was saying, even though it was a joke. But he believed that Mandela has become so popular that every one of us inside in Soweto would want to touch him. And that's why he advocated the whole thing of getting a strong defense against that. Besides that, in conclusion, Aubrey was also quite a fighter at ideological levels. I've seen him engaging with quite a number of people in defense of what he believed in. And it was quite marvelous because after that, Aubrey would still relate with those people that he had certain differences with. I would like to conclude by saying thank you for having allowed me to speak for this moment, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
At this point in time, I would request the Provincial Executive Committee member, Ndatempo Tau Parks, to come here, but as he does, he should also raise Comrade Jesse Duarte, the Deputy Secretary General, to come on stage so that we can have the ANC in total speaking to us and then hand over the sermon to the church. And please, let's save the church time. Thank you very much, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the program director, Kilibise Tlhompo Gobaruti, Matshidiso go ba lelapa. Ke dumedise ketapele ya mokgatlo wa setšhaba. E etelletswe pele ke Deputy Secretary General Cde Duarte. Program Director, I am acutely aware of your time constraints. And yes, I had prepared a speech, but in deference to your time, allow me not to read the speech. I'll share it with the family. In that way, it would allow our leader to speak to us, the Deputy Secretary General. Safe to say that when I received a message forwarded to me, and I can't say it verbatim, the message read something like, "My children are devastated. Aubrey is no more." One could only feel the pain of a mother, Osmali, and could only imagine the pain of the children in losing their father. COVID has had a devastating impact on society in a way that, in fact, the pain is numbing. It can't be that, in fact, we live in a society where every day you receive a message of a person that you knew that has passed on. It can't be that, in fact, you spend a Friday evening deciding which funeral am I going to attend. Am I going to bury Dr. Abin Komo? Am I going to bury Bra Ops? Am I going to bury Cecil Mabiletsa? Am I going to bury Chris Ngobo? Am I going to bury Kehlam Tembu? You almost get to be relieved when you are sent to a funeral because the leadership says, well, we think that you should go there because, in fact, all these people you knew very well and have fond memories of. The scars are deep. We have lost loved ones, and we've had to live in an environment where you check your oximeter, oxygen, and temperature, and you get regular messages. You know, I had to leave home because everybody was infected. So every morning, you check the oxygen. So you live in a house where 8 people have tested positive. So you check the oxygen. Temperature. If it's too high, what do we do? So the emotional scars are just too many. The psychological impact on us as a society is unimaginable. We're going to have to heal, and we're going to have to work with each other in the healing process. As the program director duly instructed, let me take this opportunity to invite to the podium our Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Cde Duarte, who in her own right worked very closely with Bra Ops, Deputy Secretary General.
The leadership of the AME Church, my sister and friend, Comrade Mali, Naledi and Mandela. On behalf of the African National Congress, I'd also like to greet all of you who are here today, including special friends, Jabu, my big brother, somewhere, and say that on behalf of the ANC, we would like to convey our heartfelt and sincere condolences to all of you, but especially to Sister Mali and the children. This loss is not a loss that is easy for any of us. It will take us many, many years to undo the pain that COVID-19 has inflicted on all our families. It is difficult. And we are losing fine revolutionaries and stalwarts from our Congress, whom we are supposed to be turning to for their timeless wisdom and strength during this period, when we are going through a particularly challenging period in our movement. Yes, I did work with Comrade Aubrey, and I'll only share one anecdote with you. There are many. But in 1983, we were sent, Comrade Aubrey had just finished his banning order, and we were sent to Davidtonville together. And there was violence there. Comrade Aubrey drove like a madman, fast. There was just no stop streets, no robots, no white lines, no nothing. There was just the road, and I held on tight to my seat until we got there. Very scared more scared of being in that car with Praobs than actually going to face what we were going to face where we were being sent. But I must say to you that in that day, I realized the heart of this human being called Aubrey Mokoena. A young child had been shot with a rubber bullet which penetrated the front of his head. And as we came towards the stadium where things were not very good, one woman called out and said, "This child is dying." Comrade Aubrey did not hesitate. He got out of the car, lifted the child into the back seat of the car, and we went looking for the first clinic we could find to help this child. So whatever we were sent for was secondary to the life of a human being. And I think that for me was his remarkableness, was his love for human life and his respect for the dignity of every human being. And Comrade Aubrey, as Sister Mali says, had no time and patience for ageism or racism. Even though all of us, I must say, came from the Black consciousness movement. Today in the ANC, people don't want to admit that. But in fact, all of us, we did. And we evolved into the ANC when we began to understand how much broader our movement had to be and how we had to bring about a South African nation. Now, the UDF was a place where over 700 community organizations were formed. I'm not going to mention them all. And we all had different tasks to do. But the one glue that somehow pulled us all together was the Release Mandela campaign. Because it was a campaign above all other campaigns. We were involved in the Anti-President's Council. By the way, Comrade Aubrey was at the launch of the anti-PC, worked very closely with Professor Mohammed, Elaine and Jenny Mohammed, myself, Jesse Turton, and many other people. And Comrade Aubrey was one of those activists who broke the idea that you work in your own racial community. We all worked wherever anyone lived. And so we became a non-racial activist forum. And that's what the UDF did, was to break racism even amongst ourselves. We learned to understand each other as human beings, and we learned to give each other that support that human beings give to each other, irrespective of your race, your color, your religion, or your creed. I also have a speech, so I'm not going to be able to read my speech because I'm so scared of Comrade Uhuru can deal with me. But I do want to say this to you. At the moment, we are going through a period where, again, we have to learn lessons. And the critical lesson we must learn is that the inequality in our country is not going to go away magically. We have to have a conversation which is different from all the conversations which have, and which must make us uncomfortable. We have to have an uncomfortable conversation, all of us, about where our nation is at this moment. Of course, we know that the violence and the looting was sparked by a particular event, but it grew into something completely different. And that something different is what must open our eyes. The inherent, almost racial fights that are beginning to take place. But at the same time, that wonderful South African spirit of cleaning up our country and restoring it back to order is also emerging. I was able to call people in 2 communities and say, look, can you guys go and defend malls? First, I got a very strange answer. Well, we must do what? I said, defend those malls. That is the infrastructure that serves the black people of our country. And that is what's being destroyed. Infrastructure that services us is being burnt, is being destroyed, is being looted. And I must say that I am hugely impressed, Comrade Uhuru, with a young group in Soweto called the Soweto Parliament. I don't know if we've made contact, Comrade Parks, with these young people. But he puts out a statement in which he says, everyone in Soweto is equal. No one will be looting here because we are all equal, we are one community, and we are going to defend ourselves. I think that we are at a point now where we need to reinvent, beyond the branch of the ANC, an outward look towards all the people. Because we cannot claim to be the leaders of society when we're not leading everyone in society. And that is what Aubrey Mokoena taught us. I will end off just by saying this. You see, I think when I met Aubrey, I was just 30. Can you imagine? I was young. And whatever he said, we used to hang on to his words, follow him around. And he did something so wonderful. He would explain, he would start singing Senzenina, and in between singing, he would talk. And then he would raise the octave of Senzenina, 1 octave higher at a time. And then he would talk again. But in the meantime, everybody else would quietly be humming and singing Senzenina in the background, while Aubrey Braob's voice would ring out. Mandela will be walking the streets of Johannesburg. Mandela will be walking the streets of Pretoria. The leadership will be free soon. And you know, we knew it so well, we would actually recite it with him. This was a wonderful comrade. His lessons are that 10% of the world's economy cannot control 90% of the lives of the people. We have to turn that around. We have to change the structure of the economy in our country, and we have to listen to the youth. Comrade Aubrey was passionate about education, really, really passionate. He served with me on a school, not a school, but a scholarship organization run by the Reverend Bayers Nodir. We were the board. We had to raise money and make sure it got to the right people. And the point was that, yes, we've done very well. Over 35 billion rand from 400 million rand in the budget is being spent on education in our country. It's a huge success story. But the fact of the matter is, we have to create jobs for all those graduates that we are turning out of universities. And that should be the legacy that Aubrey Mokwena's name must be remembered by. He always spoke about education. First, he spoke about release of all political prisoners, release of detainees, and then education would be the next thing. I would like to end there and say to the family, we've all had losses, Sister Mali. Mohammed's grandson died a week ago, Adam. We've lost 3 brothers and Adam. COVID has taken a lot from all of us. The only way we can defeat this beast, this monster, is by actually becoming a major disciplined nation and making sure that we don't spread this disease. So I would like to do what Aubrey did very well and say, Amandla.
There's a adopted son by the name Sipamandla. He's sitting over there. Yes, Sipa? Yes. He really has taken care of Bra Aubrey in his twilights. And I wanted to, please, just 1 minute. 1 minute, just 1 minute. Sipamandla, one minute. Yeah? Okay, so that you can hear.
Yes, Cardinal of the Church, Umamu Mali Mokoena, ibandla lonke Nkosi lesonto nezikhulu ze-ANC. Nkosi yami ngithi ngiphakamele nje ukubonga unduna into angenzela wena emhlabeni. Unduna wangithatha ngapha emgwaqeni waseBramfontein, wangithatha ilicense, wangithatha wathi ngihamba wangifaka emsebenzini eSocialberg, ngasebenza nabafundisi naba ofakazi bami. Unduna uye yedwa nje umuntu engambona emhlabeni okwangenzela isimangaliso. Akekho umuntu engambona ofana nonduna. So ngithi ngiphakame ngisho ngithi nduna ulale kahle la ukhona. Nkosi yami akekho umuntu engiyophinda ngimthole ofana nawe. Ubaba, ubumama, ubuyonke into kimi. Nduna.
Raleboga Sapa. Raleboga Sipamandla. We have now reached the stage where we have to hand over Abuti Aubrey to Mokoena, to the church. Abuti Aubrey, we hand you over to your house.
Amen.
There is a reverend. We'll take care of you from here until your resting place. Thank you very much. Sweet. Thank you.
Masibonga kakhulu Comrade Kuhuru, the ANC. Everybody has spoken about what you have said. We know it in this church. Sipamandla kusekhaya la. Unduna uhambile kodwa ukushiye nekhaya la. You've got the fathers and the mothers here. Uma kubanzima, knock at this home, Sipamandla. This is your home. Sikuba ngale ndlela because of our time. Ngizocela ke ubaba ke Evangelist Tseke alandele Brother Martin. Umasicula ingoma number 5. Unoyahana 1 or 2 verses magazi baze balandelana boyi-2. Oh, I'm going home. Bacala yo.
Greetings to the family. Greetings to the leadership of ANC. And greetings to everybody who's here. The song that we we've just sung, Brother Aubrey Mokoena, Bra Ops, used to sing the song every time he's asked to stand up and speak in the church funerals. Now we are singing it for him to say, Bra Ops, you have gone home to die no more. To the family, we wish to say to you, quoting the sermon of Jesus on the mountain, Matthew chapter 5, verse 4, where Jesus says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." We are saying today, the Mokwena's family is blessed because all of us who are here are consoling them. Bra Ops, when my relationship with him started, I was 19 years old and he was 50 years. I'm 28 years in this church, AME Church Africa. I started at Sunday school. I was coming from the mother church, AME, when I joined in 1993 this church. And I was in the Sunday school. We had 3 classes, the junior and the intermediate and the senior. Because of my age when I came, I was in the senior class. And in 1994, we graduated. 95, I became a Sunday school teacher. I think that's when Brother Aubrey Mokoena identified a potential in me. And I can tell you, when I was 19, Bra Ops said to me one Sunday, "What are you going to do after church service?" I said, "No, I'm going home and relax." He then said, "No, I must take you for a few hours." That's how our relationship started. He took me out for lunch, and after lunch, you know, the 3 hours we spent after eating, we were reading the Bible. We were also planning church work. Then every week from that day, weekly we would have such moments with Bra Ops where we plan. And Bra Ops taught me that everything that we were doing for the church, because he contributed a lot for this church. Africa wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for him. He taught me that you should never thank me, because whatever that has happened is through God's grace and power. So give thanks to God, not me as an individual. That's Bra Ops. So I then said, no, next time when I want to thank him, I'll use these words. Then I would say, Bra Ops, we thank you for allowing God to use you to do his work. Amen. And he would accept it. You know, Bra Ops, okay, yeah, because of time, I would speak, yeah, but because of time, I just want to say, Bra Ops, yes. Go well. Yes. All the teachings, we will make sure that we pass them on to other reliable men and women in this church. God be with you till we meet again. Thanks.
Now, all what has been said ka Ntate Mokoena, we as a church, we want to say, Robala ka khotso, Morwa Mokoena, because tsohle o di entse ka mafolofolo ka boinehelo bo makatsang. Le setlhabelo sa hao ka bowena, we are saying to you, re leboha Modimo ha o kile wa ba leloko la kereke ena. Ene le teng wana wa bontsha hore you don't just become a member of a church. When you are a member of a church, you must have a purpose in the church. And you showed ka hore ha temana e re rata wa heno jwalo ka o ithata o ilo wa e bonahatsa ka hare ho kereke. Wana wa bonahatsa hore o rata Modimo ka mmele, pelo le moya. Hobaneng dikopanong tsohle tse ntseng di buiwa mona, di meeting, di rally tsa ANC, o ne o tseba hore ha o no nyerilwe moyeng ho ne ho na le sediba so o no onwa ho sona. Ke ka hoo o bileng wa ba le matla hobane ka nako tsohle o ne o tseba hore Modimo o a phela. Ene ka yena mosebetsi yohle o ne o etsang o ile wa bana le tswelopele e matla. Ke ka hoo dipuo kaofela tse di buehang mona e ne se wena fela but e ne e le ka tataiso ya Modimo hobane o ne o tseba hore le ha nka kena fela 5 minutes ka hare ho kereke ke tswa dikopanong, Modimo ke yena ya ntsamaisang. Ya leboha.
Siyabulela kakhulu. Sicela uhlelo dumisa ngoku. Can we cut it mhlambe ukuthi Mthembe on the last part then sicele umuntu oceleliwe family azofunda obituary before the bishop speaks.
Aubrey Mokoena was born in Orlando West, Johannesburg in 1948 to Stephen and Rosetta Mokoena. But due to his mother's bad health, he was brought up by a family friend, Mrs. Anna Home. Even though his parents were unhappy to move to Johannesburg, they were forced to do so to look for work. They would almost every year undertake trips to Free State to visit the graves of his relatives. Although it was quite easy for the Mokoenas to find work, like most black families, they found it more difficult to find a family home in Johannesburg until James Mpanza, a community leader who had taken over a piece of land next to Orlando, where he provided land for the homelessness. The government eventually extended Orlando West into the area, and it became Soweto. He was also a strong Christian and a member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, where his wife joined the Mothers Union. Aubrey Mokoena was introduced to politics by his father at the age of 12, who got involved with the African National Congress, the ANC, although it was critical of Mpanza. He learned about the potato boycott from his father, and from then on, potatoes were not eaten in either the Mokoena or the Khumu households. It was also in this year that the ANC and the Pan-Africanist Congress, PAC, were banned. In the Khumu house, he was taught the value of education, and he developed a very close bond with his adoptive mother. He remembers how one day they were suddenly no longer provided with the meals at school, and how slogans about Bantu education were painted on walls. One day, members of the ANC came to visit the school and said that a boycott should be started. Mokoena was very unhappy about this, as was Anna Khomo. But his father, who was a branch organizer in the ANC, told him they must do something to get an equal education. While Stephen Mokoena made his son politically aware, Anna Khomo continued to insist that he continue his education. He completed school at Orlando North High with contemporary Lindelwa Mabandla under Principal Mbatane, where he became head prefect in his last year. When he was finished school in 1969, he wanted to go to university but could not afford the fees. He was able to get a teaching job at his old school, Orlando North in Mzimhlope, where he taught with O'Hara Diseko. In 1970, through a bursary awarded by African Teachers Association bursary, was able to enroll at University of the North, popularly known as Tarflop. At the university, he founded the university choir and was chairman of the student Christian movement. In 1972, he was elected vice president of the SRC alongside Cde Aubrey Mokoena, who became president. He was later elected chairman of the local South African student organization, SASO, and thus was part of the South African Student Organization executive that became very involved in resistance politics and particularly the black conscious ideas of black power. The same year as president of the SRC, Tiro gave the graduation speech which led to his expulsion from the university. The student began to protest and the university reacted by expelling the entire student body. After a month, the university invited students, telling them to re-register, however, refused to register the SRC members and instead expelled them and 9 other activists. This led to student strikes and protests at other universities across the country, and more students were expelled from Fort Hare and Durban Westville. This action led to reawakening of political activity and the formation of the Black People's Convention, BPC, and the Black Communities Program, of which Mokoena became a member. At the insistence of Anahomo, Mokoena enrolled at UNISA to continue his degree and got a job heading the Transvaal section of the Black Community Program. From here, he was able to help his community and develop and spread his political ideas. Although the government became concerned about the project, it did not attack the organization directly. It did, however, use other means of attack until 1974. When SASO organized Frelimo rallies with the independence of Mozambique, the government banned SASO rallies despite not going on with the rally in Johannesburg. Unlike in Durban, Mokoena and others were detained. Mokoena was tortured in detention while the police tried to find the links that they presumed existed between Frelimo and the BPC. He was released 9 months later with no charge. He began his clinic again and got married to Malishane Mali Mokoena. However, the clinic did not last long as the government began to clamp down on all programs suspected to be linked to the Black Conscious Movement. When the 1976, the Soweto school uprising began and the apartheid government blamed Black Consciousness Movement, Mokoena was arrested again while SASO, BPC, and other Black conscious organizations were banned. From prison, Mokoena wrote to Laibon Mabaso that year that, unquote, quote, "Your silence is deafening," unquote, which Mabaso interpreted as a call for organizations to resist banning by reorganizing AZAPO. AZAPO was founded in 1978 and Mabaso was arrested. A year later, they were all released with Mokoena slapped with a 5-year banning order. Over the next few years, Mokwena's political activities were restricted due to his banning order, which expired in 1983. At the end of his banning order, he felt AZAPO had taken an anti-ANC viewpoint and decided that the ANC was his political home. He decided to join and get involved with the United Democratic Front, UDF, in 1984. With the UDF, he became involved in the Release Mandela campaign, RMC, and joined the anti-tricameral parliament campaign. He was again arrested, charged with treason in Pietermaritzburg treason trial, from which he was acquitted. He continued this work until he was arrested again in 1986, following the state of emergency that was declared in 1985. On release, he was once again banned. Aubrey Mokoena continued the fight for the release of political leaders through the Release Mandela campaign, which became his main political platform, working alongside Mama Winnie Mandela, Mam Greta Ncapayi, Ndate Matthews, and other leaders. He was a leading force in assisting with the integration of the first group of political leaders that were released in 1989, including Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, Wilton Mkwai, Elias Mtswaledi, and others. After the unbanning of the liberation movement, the release of Nelson Mandela in 1990, and the election of 1994, Aubrey Mokoena was appointed member of the first parliament, where he served as the chairperson of the Committees for Environmental Affairs and Tourism and for Public Enterprises. He is survived by his dear wife, Malishane Mali Mokoena, his son Mandela and daughter Naledina, his nieces, nephews, and loving relatives. Thank you very much.
Isifundo sethu sanamhlanje sisifumana kwincwadi yokugqibela, incwadi yesityhilelo, isahluko ngama-20. Thenulo khawulo ke amashumi-20. The book of Revelations, chapter 20. Sizawufunda ivesi zibembini. Ivesi ye-12, sibuye siye kwivesi ye-15. Revelations chapter 20, verses 12 and 15. Yona efundeka ngolu hlobo. Ukukhululwa kukaSathane nemfazwe yokugqibela. Verse 12. Ndabona abafileyo, abancinane nabakhulu, bemi phambi koThixo. Zavulwa incwadi, kwavulwa nenye incwadi eyobomi. Bagwetywa abafileyo ngokubhaliweyo ezincwadini ezo ngokemisebenzi yabo. Verse 15. Wathi ongafunyanwanga ebhaliwe encwadini yobomi, waphoswa edikeni lomlilo. Isifundo sethu siphele lapho. Kwanga uThixo ngathamsanqelisa ukufunda kwezwi lakhe ngoku nangona phakade. Amen.
Aliko igama elihle njengalo, o aliko igama masivala amehlo. Baba, egameni lenkosi yethu Yesu Kristu, uNkulunkulu onamandla onke, wena ongahlulwa lutho. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, sibopha amandla obumnyama, amandla kaSathana wanasabelo kule ndawo. Moya engcwele sicela ukuzwa wena uqobo lwakho ukukhuluma nempilo zethu. uNkulunkulu onamandla onke, izwi lakho liyaphila, izwi lakho liphume libuye lingenzanga umsebenzi. uNkulunkulu onamandla onke, siyehla thina ukuze uphakame wena. Modimo wa rona re leboha mohau wa hao, ke ka lebaka la mohau wa hao re ntse re phela le kajeno. Ntate, re a ikokobetsa rona hore wena o phahame. Tse tsohle re di kopa ka lebitso le matla, lebitso le sa hlolweng ke letho, lebitso la morena wa rona Jesu Kriste. Let the church of God say amen. Ngaphandle kokumosha isikhathi,
kantle usenyana
ake ngicale ngokubulisa umndeni wakaMokoena.
ake qale ke dumedise lelapa la Mokoena,
Ngibulise bonke abaphathi
ke dumedise bohle baetapele
ngokulandelana kwabo
ka ho hlahlamana ha bona
kwi-political side na religious side.
ho dipolotiki le sedumeding.
Ke kopa ho qala ka hore ho le family ya Mokoena
Cela ukuba ndiqale ngokuthi kusapho la kaMokoena
alukho lubi eniliyenzile,
ha hona le libi leo le le entseng,
le maemong ana o santse a le modimo.
nakwimeko le esanguThixo.
Ka nako e nngwe batho ba ka butsana
Ngenye ixesha abantu bangabuzana,
kuthi yini bokufanele siyenze bengasiza ubomi bakhe.
ke eng e tshwanetse re e etse e ka thusa bophelo ba hae.
Empa tse ding tsa dintho di hodimo wa matla rona.
Ezinye zezinto zingaphezulu kwamandla wethu.
Paulos o re ha buisana le rona,
uPaulos uthi xa ethethisana nathi
qetelong tiyang moreneng le matleng a hae a maholo.
lokugqibela womelelana ukuthi
Hobane ntwa ena a se ya nama le madi.
imfazwe le asiyenyama.
All what we see, what is happening ka corona today,
so sibona yenzakala ngecorona
those are the
namhlanje.
results or the outcome of what is happening in the dark places.
Impumelo eke yenzakala ebumnyameni.
Impa akiyo mo kajeno.
andikho apho namhlanje.
The scripture eresibadileng kajeno.
Incwadi esifundileyo
Sibale in the book of Revelations,
sifunde kwincwadi yesikhilelo
chapter 20.
isahluko se-amashumi amabini.
Kirata mane iring.
Ndithanda phaa isithi
And I saw the dead, the great and small,
ndabona abafi abakhulu nabancikani
standing before the throne.
bame phambi kwetroni.
Bana beso ke kopa utsho hore le ha maikutlo wa rona a eme jwang.
Bantwana sekhaya ndicela kutsho bana bamevo wethu ame
Empa kaofela batho ba philang ba ya tseba hore ba tla hlokahala.
abantu bayayazi ukuba abaphilayo
As we are all seated or standing here today,
noba sihleli simile namhlanje.
yabona ka letsoho le ha o tshwere your birth date,
uyabona kwesisandla xa ume kwinyanga yakho yokuzalwa
ka mona o tshwere your death date.
ngapha uphethe eyokufa.
Ka mona ke letsatsi la hao o tswetseng ka lona.
ngapha lilanga lakho ovele
Ka mona ke letsatsi la hao o tla hlokahalang ka lona.
ngapha lilanga lakho
Le ha o sa le tsebe hore le tla tla ka mofuta o jwang,
noba ungayazi uba
empa kaofela ba ha Mokoena re tlo hlokahala.
kodwa sonke
Bra Ops be ha ntse a rera, a ntse a sebetsa, a ntse a bina, a ntse a ba mafulufulu, empa le yena be a tseba hore ka letsatsi le leng o tla hlokahala le yena. Ke kopa ho bua taba ke ena. Ke re Bibele dibuka tse di bile tsa bulwa.
ithi ibhayibheli incwadi ziya zavulwa.
Books were opened.
incwadi zavulwa.
You know, when people die, different types of books are opened. But the Bible says there was this special book which was opened. And in that special book, it was only the names of those who have done a great job. My theme today will say, I know maybe it's something that you did not expect to hear. What have you done so far? Bophelong ba hao ha o ntse o phela, wena o entseng. Bibele e re Jesu ka letsatsi le leng, in the book of Luke chapter 10, e re a kgetha barutwana ba hae ba 72 and he sent them to the world. The Bible says they went to the world, and when they come back, ministers, the Bible says they were happy and excited that it master, even the demons are mamela, are recover. And Jesus said, you must not be happy about that. What you need to be happy about, what your names are in the book of life. What will help us to be busy in the world? To do whatever in the world. But at the end of the day, our names are not in the book of life. When we work, some people get offended. When we work, oh, can I clarify this? But only to find good God is not pleased about your work.
yakhumbula ingoma esithi
mohlang ho re tla kopana ganyang di bohle ba re bina tupulo bana beso wena o like it or not re tla hlokahala empa bothata ke gore ha re qeta ho hlokahala re tla tlohela kae na
sizovukela phina.
I know kana kwengwe
ndiyayazi ngelinye ixesha
ha re ntse re sebetsa
xa simane sisebenza siva intlungu.
Kana kwengwe you can help people
ngelinye ixesha
but
unganceda
batho ba sa appreciate seo se etsang
into uyenzayo.
batho ba hlolela hore re a leboha empa Bibele e re ho rona seo re se etsang re se ka ra se etsetsa batho empa re se etsetse Modimo mosebetsi yohle re etsang a re etsetseng tlhwekiso ya Modimo.
Udumiso kaThixo.
Potso ya ka e ntse e dutse
Umbuzo wamuhleli.
Ntate Mokoena has helped many people here.
Utata Mokoena unceda abantu
But the
abaninzi.
question is,
Kodwa umbuzo
Nna
uthi,
le wena,
mna nawe
how are we
sikude
with
kangaka
the work that is pleasing to God?
ngomsebenzi obalulekileyo kuThixo.
I know sometimes
Siyayazi ngelinye imini
when we work,
xa sisebenzayo
re thabisa Modimo,
sithi sivuyise uThixo
we end up
sigqibela
tima bana ba rona nako ya bona.
sivimbela abantwana bethu ixesha
Ka
labo.
nako e nngwe when we work,
Ngelinye ixesha
we
xa
end up
sisebenza,
using the resources tsa bana ba rona.
sisebenzisa izinto zabantwana bethu
The resources tsa bana ba rona.
ama-resource
Ho
abantwana
lefatshe, hallelujah.
behlabathi.
And only to find hore le lefatshe leo
sijonge wena
le seke la o leboha.
lingabuleli.
Mara taba ke ena,
Kodwa indaba
qetelong tsohle o di etsetsang Modimo. Modimo o tla
Uvezele uThixo.
e re Bibele ha e bua.
Ibhayibhile xa ithetha
In the book of Revelation chapter 3,
incwadi yesikhilelo
jonga,
sheba
unegama lokuthi uyaphila,
wona leli bitso la waphila
kanti ufile.
kanti ushwile.
Vuka uvuselele.
Tsuwa o itsoseletse
Loko kusele bosokuza kufa.
se setseng pele ho shwa.
Bana besu, we all have a task.
Bantwana basekhaya sonke sinayo itaski.
We are all called
Sonke sibiziwe
misebetsing ya rona.
kwimisebenzi yethu.
Re entse mesebetsi
Siyenzile
e
imisebenzi
meng Modimo ha e thabele.
enye uThixo akavuyeli.
Why can't we stop what we are doing?
Intoni singayeki le nto
And do what
siyenzayo.
God is pleasing.
Siyenze eso.
E meng ya mesebetsi re etsetsa tjhelete. Mara ha e
Imali.
thabise Modimo.
Kodwa
E meng ya mesebetsi e etsa batho ba di rate. Empa e mo thabise Modimo. Hlokomela sa o se etsang hore se a mo thabisa Modimo na. Hobane ha Modimo a sa thaba, qetellong le wena o tla ya
nawe uzaya.
bohle ba iswang mollong.
Bonke
Taba ya ka ke ena.
Indaba yamnansi.
Zavulwa izincwadi.
Zabulwa dibuka.
Bonke abagwinywe ngamanzi.
Bohle bakuntsha inkimetsi.
Bonke abasemathuneni
Bohle bamabitleng.
bavuka.
Basuha.
Ke kopa o correcta this thing.
Ke kopa ho lokisa taba ena.
I was saying it in one funeral.
Ke ile ka bua ka le leng lefung.
Ka re bophelo bo ka tsela e nngwe.
Zathi impilo ingenye indlela.
When you live, people won't care about you.
Xa manje uphila abantu soze bakubalulekise.
But when you die, you will see mafulufulu wa batho.
Kodwa xa uswela kosa abana ukuba bakholeza
Ke be ke ipotse hore hante lerato le Modimo a re rutileng lona.
kanti uthando luthixo sithume lona
Le bontshe bathong.
siyiswa yintoni uba silibonise ebantwini.
I was sent off
Ndasukumiswa
ukuhamba indlela esihambiswa ngayo kulo mhlaba.
ka tsela eo re tsamaisang ka yona lefatshe le ka kwano.
Ayinalutho ezincwadini zasezulwini.
Ha ena letho bukeng tsa lehodimo.
Even if in your funeral there was a president,
La ebe
that won't change your destination.
ha e bolele hore o tswele pele.
But what you have done while you are still living,
eso senzile
that will decide where your destination is.
lapho zatsho ukuba
Ore motho a mong ha bina,
etho omnye umntu xa
ore lo mhlaba uyahlaba. But there will come time where bohloko ba lefatshe bo tlo re tlohela. Mamela ke le jwetse. Bohloko ba lefatshe lena ha sa botsebi jwale. Ntho e mseletseng ke boqhaka hobane o sebedile.
basebenzile
Hore o utlwisitse batho ba bakae bohloko.
ukuba uvisa abantu abangaki intlungu
That is not our business.
asiyo yethu
Empa ke ya hae le Modimo wa.
kodwa yakhe nothixo.
Empa e saletseng nna le wena.
Eshiyeke mna nawe
Rona re etsang
thina siyenza
ka
ntoni
bophelo ba rona.
ngempilo yethu.
This church,
Le nkonzo le
Cardinal,
cardinal
it needs people who will work hard.
ifuna abantu bazasebenza
This
kanzima.
country, my comrade, will need people who will work hard.
Ifuna abantu bazasebenza
People who will
ngamandla.
work and please the Lord.
Abantu bazasebenza
People who will
ukudlulisa
work and not
uThixo.
look backward.
Abantu
E re Bibele ha e bua bohle ba le mafulufulu, bohle ba sebetsang hantle ba tla funyanwa lehodimong. A re Paulos a bua a re le nna
uthi
ha
nam
ke tjha hore I have achieved.
anditsho
But
ukuba
what I do,
ndifikelela,
I
kodwa
forget the
ndiyenze-
past
ndiyenza
and press on to fulfill
phambili.
my calling. Hey, batho ba tshwarehile
Abantu
ke dintho tsa
babekile
bona.
zizinto zayizolo.
Some other people, they don't talk to each other
Abanye abantu
because
abathathi
of what had
abantu.
happened yesterday.
Ngento
Oh,
zenzeke
I wonder
izolo.
Modimo will be interested
Ndiyayazi uba uThixo
to
uzabe-
listen to the petty
Abanye
things
abantu
e re itshwareletsang ho tsona.
amane ethetha ngento
Empa
esibambela
Paulos
ngayo.
o re,
Kodwa uPawulo
se
uthi,
ke se etsang
eso
ke
ndisenzayo
shebile pele
ndiqonde
to fulfill
phambili
my calling.
ukuba ndifikele awubizweni lam.
Maybe yesterday you have done wrong things.
Ngoba izolo mhlawumbe uyenza into engekho nto.
God is here today
uThixo khona namhlanje
to give you the last opportunity.
ukunikeza ithuba.
Many of us, we are afraid of corona.
Nabanye abantu siyayika icorona.
Many of us, we are afraid of many chronic diseases.
Abanye abantu siyazika izifo ezininzi.
But ke kopa hore ho wena,
Kodwa ndicela ukuthi
o seke wa
kuwe
tshaba lefu,
ungayiki isifo.
tshaba Modimo.
Yika uThixo.
Hobane o tla mo fumana le ka
Ngoba
ntlwana.
uzamfumana naphakela.
Qetelong ke kopa hore ho lona,
Ngibela ndithi kuwe.
hoba ha Mokoena,
Kuba kaMokoena.
all things
Into zonke
works together
ziyasebenzisana
for the good of those
kuzo zonke
that
abantu
loves the Lord.
azozithanda
Itshwareleng ho Modimo.
Vumelelani kuThixo.
Modimo o tla le tshedisa.
uThixo uzaniwisela.
Itshwareleng ho Modimo.
Zichasene
Modimo o
kuThixo.
tla le fa matla.
uThixo
Hey,
uzanikeza
you know
amandla.
something e ke batla ho itjho.
Ikhona into endifuna ukuyithetha ngoku.
Ha batho ba ntse ba tletse,
Abantu bamane
bohloko or the gap ya motho a sa le siyo ha e bonahale. But the moment batho se ba tsamaile, it's when you will see hore o teng motho a le siyo jwale. Empa ha fihla maemo a jwalo, go mamang ka mangwele le batle Modimo. Qetelong ke tlo re ho lona, ke Modimo ya tsebang.
nguThixo aziyo
Tsohle tse re utlwisitseng bohloko,
zonke ezizivize inhlungu
ha re di feng Modimo.
masizinikezeni uThixo.
Nako ya ka e fedile
Ixesha
jwale.
lam liphelile ngoku.
Ke kopa o tlo tso mantswe ana wa ho qetela
Ndicela kuthi kula mazwi lokugqibela
hore to the church
kwinkonzo
it might be a loss,
kungalahla singalahla
but to heaven is a gain.
kodwa phezulwini
To the country it might be a loss,
singalahlekelwa
but to heaven it's a gain.
kodwa ezulwini
To the family
livuyo.
it might be a loss,
ingaba inhlungu
empa
lahlekelwa
lehodimong
kodwa izulu
uyinzuzo.
ivuyile.
Asivaleni amehlo sithandaze. Tate re le utlwile lentswe la hao. Tate wa rona ka lebitso la morena wa rona Jesu Kriste, ke ba batho ba hao. Ha re tlo tloha jwale, re kopa wena ya ka sebele o be le rona. Re fe matla ntate hore qetelong ha re sheba wena re fumane matla a matjha. Tate, here's the family, re a itlama ka lebitso la Jesu Kriste wa Nazareta. Ke kereke ya Afrika, the organization ya ANC, re ba fa matla ka lebitso la Jesu Kriste wa Nazareta. Tsohle di tswa ho wena. E re lentswe la hao qetelong matla a hlaha ho wena. Re fe matla o tswela pele. Tsena tsohle re di kopa ka lebitso la Modimo wa rona, lebitso le matla, lebitso la Jesu Kriste wa Nazareta. Let the Church of God say amen.
I'll make an announcement on how we go, how we come back.
Oh
Amen. Amen. Dinengxaki ma emi Africa. Asizange emngcwabeni. Dinengxaki icula ngathi siye kufeni. Uthi umculo uphilo kuyena fela. Impabathabathe. But you sing as if rathwana rethiwe. Dinengxaki. Ngicela nje ke sifu le moto ifudumala kancane. Ne 5 minutes before speaking mode. Before ugqa wami athathe over from announcements. Ngicela sis rifuthumatha man. Ka re mo lefung. A re ba mo chareng man. Itshoko mo chareng. Ngifuna ukuthi kwikhaya kaMhlakwana umthi omkhulu uyile. Umthi omkhulu uyile. Umthi omkhulu uyile. Thixoxola bena andisekele. My brother.
Bagolo, announcement here. We're going to lay the mortal remains of our brother Aubrey Mokoena at West Park Cemetery from here. From West Park Cemetery, everybody else but the family is requested to come back to the church. That's where catering will take place. Only the family will go to Dade Mokwena's home for conditions that we all know. Even as we come back, let's just pick up what we need to pick up and not do after tears. You know, after tears is not only drinking after the funeral service, as we now know, it's a subculture. After tears is also now talking talking and forgetting that we've got to keep a social distance. We pray to God that no one should be infected by COVID-19 from this service. And we think that God has got mercy on us. Thank you very much.
Bishop, can you do the benediction?
Bafiki, thank
Then
you.
Sizo Puma, after that, the bishop will do the benediction.
Fefel kaThixo nobudlelwane lothando lomoya engcwele malihlala ngaphandle kwenhliziyo zethu lincambaze kude kube saphakadini saphakadini. Amen.
Sicela ngale ndlela kuphuma kuqala abafundisi kuzifamily and isisalandela. The order of going out.